when I think about an invasive species, there are certain attributes that invasive species have. They tend to be generalists. They consume a wide variety of plants and animals. They tend to occupy a diverse array of habitats, so they can be very widespread. They tend to have broad physiological tolerances, meaning that they can occupy a broad range of temperatures, or in this case with green crab, a broad range of salinities, from nearly freshwater all the way through seawater. They also tend to be very fecund. They can produce a lot of offspring very quickly and reach high abundance. And when you start putting together all of those attributes, you start to see that in that situation, with an animal reaching very high abundance very quickly in a broad range of habitat types, that it would produce a wide variety of impacts as well.
Over the 200 years, it's sort of a matter of probability as to whether or not one or a handful of larvae, one good year, could favor moving larvae into a place where they don't usually end up. And then once you have a population locally, it becomes easier for larvae to stick around and get retained. So it turns out that in invasion biology, that one of the best predictors of whether an invasive species will be bad news for a given site is whether it's been a problem elsewhere. We're somewhat concerned about impacts on potentially Dungeness crab and on eelgrass. Volunteers are absolutely critical to the crab team program. They enable us to survey and to be looking for this crab in many more places than I could do by myself, or even the group of us could do by ourselves.
My name is Peter Heffelfinger, and my summer project last year was to be the team leader for a green crab survey team at Kikit Island, or Kikutali, which is the actual Indian name for it. You need to know what's there before you can assess any kind of invasive threat or assess what damage an invasive species is doing. So if it affects the native crabs, if it affects the Dungeness crabs, if it affects the eelgrass, we want to do even essentially an early warning system. We don't want to wait for the canary to die, in a sense, or the crabs to show up and not be able to turn back the tide of that. The thing is, it is a world-class invasive species that has traveled around the world. I grew up back east, and it's decimated the soft-shell clam population in Maine and Nova Scotia. So we want to know if these are the right conditions for Puget Sound. My role is to assemble the equipment, schedule the survey for the proper tides at a designated green crab survey site they call a pocket estuary. Or, this is essentially a nursery lagoon where the baby crabs start to grow in the spring. Our team is charged with identifying all the crabs inside, both by species, gender, and then also whether there's any invasive green crabs. We haven't found any yet, but we're essentially setting up a baseline of the habitat. It essentially gives professional marine biologists eyes on the beach. Once a month, boom, right there. You can have 40 volunteers earning, volunteer time instead of 40 trained scientists being needed. We're their data collection. They can do the implications and the tracking and the analysis. You have to know what you start with, otherwise you really don't know what damage is being done or how serious it is, or if it's negligible.
If we weren't looking, we would essentially miss the best opportunity we have to be sure that these impacts don't happen. We're essentially giving up the opportunity to intervene in a situation. Right now, when we have evidence that green crabs are getting here, but that they're not very abundant, that's absolutely the best chance that we have to intervene effectively. And abdicating that opportunity or letting it pass us by would be extremely disappointing because of the potential threat and because of what we've seen elsewhere.